Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today is the fire chat with Dora Lu. Hi Dora.
Hi. So, my name is Dora Lu. I'm her daughter. I'm a rising 9th grader, so I'm going to be going to 9th grade next year. I'm going to Phillips Andover as a boarder. So, yeah.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for your willingness to come to share your experiences with the audience. I know that you have been going through this process for the high school application for almost a year. So we just like to get some of your authentic experience and thinking, and also advices that you can share with the rest of the students who are going to apply for the independent high school. So today is the fire chat, so the answer are not prepared. So basically, Dora doesn't know what I'm going to ask her. So let's get started. So what you enjoy the most over this application process?
I think mostly it's just looking and seeing how many different schools there are and the differences between them, because when you're in school and just going from elementary to middle to high school, you don't really think about how many different types of school there are or like the differences each school offers. So going to these different schools, like open house and meeting the admissions, meeting their students there, it gives me a broader view of understanding, first of all, what do I want in high school, and second of all, what can high school actually give me.
So it sounds like it broadened your view and perspectives. So over this 1 year, which area you see yourself grow the most during this process?
I think it's just human interaction, because personally I'm a pretty introverted person, so when I first started this I had trouble speaking with admissions or had trouble speaking with my tour guides. So usually my parents will have to ask the questions, and I'm pretty like, oh, I don't have any questions, no, it's okay, just keep going. So interacting with adults and students who are older than me is where I see myself grow the most throughout this entire process. And I think rather than growing, I think I also got a better understanding of who I am, because this process makes me take a step back and ask myself, who am I? What am I good at? What do I like to do? Like, what's special about me? So, yeah.
Great. So over the course of this process, what the most challenging aspect you experience?
Yeah, I think there are, obviously this is a very tough process, especially if you're applying for pretty high tier schools, I guess. I think there are different types of challenging. One type of challenging I just mentioned, finding who I am, asking myself these hard questions, like if an interviewer asked me, like, okay, tell me about yourself, what am I supposed to say, what am I going to say? So taking a step back and thinking about what makes me special, what are my specific traits that define who I am, was pretty challenging, and it was a tough process. But also studying for the SSAT was pretty tough, especially vocabulary for me, and it's basically something every applicant will struggle with. Yeah.
So do you have any advice for the students who are applying, that how they can stand out among those applicants?
Yeah, first of all, it's just, again, knowing who you are, knowing what is special about you. For example, for me, I've lived in many different places, and not only have I lived in many different places and different countries, I have traveled to them, and I have made an effort to learn from it, learn from where I have been, learn from the cultures I've been immersed in, and get something out of it that will change my perspective and makes my perspective special or different than other people. So that's one of the things that made me different from other applicants. And most of the time it's just finding what's special about you. Maybe it's just your outgoing personality, or maybe it's you're really good at one sport and you've learned a lot from that sport, or maybe it's art and music. So it's basically anything that makes you special. It's different for everyone, so it's hard to define.
Yeah, but going through the process, I think we have also had some discussions about leadership projects, etc. So there are a lot of kind of a presumption that you have to have some leadership projects on your resume or to show to the admission. So what's your viewpoint about leadership projects?
Right, I think a lot of people begin to do the leadership project or begin to do a project that will look better on their resume or will give you something to talk about in your interview because of either a counselor that you have who's like, I think it would be nice if you did a project because it will make you stand out, it will make you different, or your parents, or you compare it to the college application, where in college a lot of times they will look for what you do outside of school. Do you do any community service? Do you create an organization to help these people, or have you done like some math project for like kids, or like any clubs? This is what colleges look for. But for me, at least for high school right now, as a middle school student, you're not supposed to, or you're not expected to have led a club. You're not expected to have done all these community projects or have created your own projects and led something. So I think worry less about that, because I was actually worrying pretty much about that. And I did do a leadership project with the help from my school. I tried to publish things from my middle school perspective, from my diversity and inclusion club, to the upper school newspaper. And I think it's more about, if you really want to do this, you have to pick something you actually really enjoy. And if you don't have a topic that you love so much, or if you don't know what to do with that project, you don't know what kind of leadership project you can do with that topic, then don't worry too much about it, because that's not necessarily what the high school application process is looking for.
So there's like I say, it's also one of the important elements in this process. So can you share about your experiences in how you tackle the essay, and what is the advice that you will give to the students?
Yeah, so for essays, at least for the schools I applied to, they have very open-ended questions, and they have more closed-ended questions. So usually, in my opinion, take this with a grain of salt, do what you want to do, but in my opinion, you should stay away from the essay topics that's like, tell me about a book that you like, or like, tell me about this thing that you like that is made by someone else. I think those aren't very helpful unless they really impacted you or like reflect who you are, because if you do a book analysis, it doesn't really show how you think. It doesn't really show who you are as a person. It may show who you are as a student, but they already asked for that, so that's not really helpful. Mainly it's about telling a very small story, but having that small story reflect how you think, and reflect how you think on a daily life kind of basis. Because I know a lot of people would want to write about a big event, like moving to a new house, or like someone close to them passing away. But those are important, but I don't think they show how you react to things on a daily basis. It's not like your classes change and you're gonna react that way, or like it's not like you're going to boarding school and you're gonna react that way. It's more about how you process things on a daily basis. So because I'm going to Andover, I've connected with some of my new classmates, and if you actually listen to them talk about their topic, one person wrote about a snail, another person I think wrote about walking their dog or a bike ride, another person wrote about K-pop. So it's all things that's very typical, but making a good essay is telling what's going on in your head when that's happening and making that story different.
Great. So for this year, particularly going through this pandemic, so the situation is definitely is changing. It's not the environment that you used to have when you apply for the high school. So is there any practical advice that you want to give to the students, going through the pandemic where that they couldn't really physically go into an open house, etc.?
Yeah, so obviously I'm not really experiencing that, so I don't know too much about what I'm talking about, but for me, if I were in this situation and I didn't have an open house, I wouldn't exactly, well, I feel like the open house is mainly for you. It's obviously to see how the school is in general. And for me, it's really important to go on campus to feel what the campus vibe is kind of like, and that you can't really feel over a computer screen or an iPad screen. So to be honest, it's more about doing research about that school and asking real people who either have applied there, ask their reason why they applied there or chose not to apply there or go there, or students who goes to that school, because open house is really for you to determine, is this school going to give me what I want? And for other aspects like interview and what else would be changing?
I think it's mainly about interview and the open house.
Right. So for interviews, I don't think it would be too different. But what has helped me during the interview, because when you're going to an interview, there's that stage of getting dressed at your house and preparing at your house and then driving there or like taking a flight there, and then finally arriving at the place and feeling a little bit nervous when you're sitting at the chair and then they're going to call you in, and you're going to have your interview, and that whole process is takes a different emotional toll on you than when you're sitting at home and you're going to sign up on your computer and go into Zoom or anything and be like, hi. So I think it would be nice if you replicate that process, like getting dressed, feeling a little bit nervous, reciting the things that you have prepared, or like remembering what's special about you, those key points, and then taking a deep breath and then going to the interview. So I feel like the main difference would be the open house, because those are pretty important. But yeah, do as much research you can and talk to real people about their experiences would be the best.
So listen to you earlier on that obviously, going through this process of finding who you are and what you're special about is the most, or maybe one of the most significant piece. So would you like to walk through your thought process, that how you're going through and really, come to better the conclusion? Yeah.
Right. So actually, I went to 2 different counselors. That's outside of my school, because my school didn't offer counseling. And my first counselor, I think, was it my first or the second? I don't know. Either one of those counselors gave me a list of interview questions that schools might possibly ask, or frequently asked questions. And she asked me to prepare it, and I didn't exactly know what preparing for that meant, so I just wrote down all of my answers for that, and I realized that wasn't a very productive use of my time. But I guess that really helped me because after seeing all those answers I wrote for like the 50 something questions, I start to see themes of my answers, what I really like, what I will answer with, what topics or subjects I've gone deeper into. So for me, it was more art, and my background and my interest in diversity and inclusion, specifically like racial justice. So those are the 3 points that I noticed, and those are the 3 points that I focused on. And then I think my second counselor also gave me the question that most colleges ask, tell me about yourself. They don't actually ask you that in the high school application, and I was really nervous about that, but they don't ask you that. But that really helps me also find that, because you basically write 2 to 3 different paragraphs about 3 things that's special about you. And again, what I wrote was my art, my interest in culture and traveling around the world, and my different perspective I've gotten, and the racial equality and diversity and inclusion. And it's really about just finding who you are, and if it helps, well, rather than finding who you are, it's finding what you like to do and what you're doing deep things into that's like past just going to school. So if it helps, you can go on the internet and search up frequent asked high school application questions and list out a little bit of your answers for that to see if there is a theme. But really, it's a different process for everyone, because tell me about yourself is a question everyone will answer differently. So I can't really be like, oh, look at your sports, or like, look at your art.
Yeah. So I know that when we went through this process, that you also were nervous from time to time. So now when you're looking back, right, how would you advise those students that they can have the kind of the best experience they can get through this process, maybe less nervous, or rather than putting too much time to worry about something?
Right. So for me, at least, I think the reason why I got more nervous is because of my parents. I think my mom made this a little bit more complicated than it actually was supposed to be. And I know that a lot of parents might treat this as a preparation for the college application. And in a way, you kind of replicated that. You were, now that I realize after the application, you were giving me a lot of things that for a high school application, it's actually not useful, or I won't come across that I would actually come across in college applications. So I think it's really just knowing the key important parts and not really outdoing anything but that. It's basically the essay, the interview, the SSAT, and knowing what you want and finding yourself. Those are the 4 key points to getting into a school, because I've done a lot of I've tried to do leadership project, and I've tried to make other connections or whatever, but at the end of the process, you hear all these admissions saying, oh, I really liked your essay, I really liked your this, or you meet students who are like, oh, I didn't really put that much effort into it, I just did these 3 things that I'm supposed to be doing, and they still got in. So basically, be good at what is important. Be good at writing your essay. Write a good essay, solid essay that shows how you think. Show the interviewer how you're different and what you want from the school. Don't try to please them. Try to just show who you are. Try to just show what you want from the school and what you like about the school genuinely. And the SSAT, I got a pretty great score, so I can't really say this, but personally, I don't think the scores are too important. If you're in the upper 80s or 90s, I think you're fine. So yeah.
Good. So, finally, what's your advice to parents?
Parents, support your kids. That's the most important thing. Because I have friends who were also applying, and I know there are situations. One of my friends, her parents are not very fluent in English, so they can't really help her through this entire process. So she had to do everything by herself. And I know that there might be some of you out there, and that's really hard, but you know, you can push through and get help from your teachers if you need it, or your older siblings and all that kind of stuff. But for the parents who are pretty fluent in English, or the parents who have gone through similar processes, let your child make their own process. Don't try to force what you did on them, or don't try to overcorrect their essays, because I have friends whose parents did that and it didn't help. And advise them where you feel like you need to, but don't micromanage this process. Don't over tell them, oh, you have to say this in the interview, you have to say this. And definitely don't treat this as a preparation for the college application, because it's very different. There are things that you can learn from this process, of course, but it's not things that you have to learn for the college application. It's things you have to learn for life. So, yeah.
Cool. So, are there anything that I haven't asked but you think it might help?
I think mainly it's just treat the process like a timeline. Because for me, because my mom was doing she's gone through this process in a different country, but gone through this similar process for college, and she basically knows everything that's going to happen. But as a kid, I never knew what I was doing until my second counselor gave me a timeline of what's going to happen. So I think looking at this and sorting out a timeline and understanding the timeline of how things are supposed to go and what you can do during each of those steps. Like, first of all, you have to find out what you want in a school and go to open houses. And then when you start to prepare for an interview, you have to find out who you are and take a look at some of those frequently asked questions, because that's pretty helpful. And you know, study for the SSAT and sort all of those out on a timeline, so you get your head into the game, basically, because I was pretty out of it until I realized, oh, how things are going to go down. It was more my parents pushing me rather than me pushing myself, until I realized, oh, next step, at this time I'm going to do this, so before that I have to prepare for that. And apart from the timeline, I just wanted to say that if you really don't know why you're applying, don't apply, because I don't think it's helpful if you don't put your heart into it. And for me, it was important because I knew that getting into a different school, or getting into a school that will help me or give me the things I want, is going to literally change the course of my life. So I thought this was pretty important. But even if you don't get in anywhere, even if you don't get into your dream school, know that this isn't going to be the deciding factor for where you're going to be at in life, I guess. So know that this is important, but not important enough to change your life or cry about it if you don't get in. Yeah.
Great. So I hope this helps from the students' point of view, and thank you, Dora, for your time and sharing your experience and thoughts.
Of course. And also take everything I said with a grain of salt. This is my opinion, my experience. You don't have to believe in it. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Take care.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.